1. Today, Spags, I get my revenge. Yesterday, you brutally sniped me on Anthony Richardson, and I will not let it happen again.
This is what happens, Pete, when you stream 150 Best Ball Mania 4 drafts. But today is Pete's shot at revenge. Today is your shot at revenge as well, drafting along with an underdog here on a Splash Play doubleheader. Pete, are you ready to do 2 drafts back-to-back to file 2 more away in your quest for it all?
Yes, thank you for the reminder here. We got to get the ticker going. This is my Best Ball Mania draft number 11. We are kicking off a new programming block here. Splash Play doubleheaders on Tuesday morning starting at 10 a.m. That's the traditional best ball breakfast time. We'll do Splash Play here, and then we will head immediately after we finish this draft over to the Splash Play channel. Need you guys to be subscribed over there. I have the link down below. I have it pinned in the chat. Back-to-back drafts Tuesday morning. What a better way to spend your day.
The thing I don't think you realized, Pete, when you were planning this out, obviously your well-crafted strategy here to get to 15,000 subs to do 250 drafts, you didn't realize how many drafts yours were going to be against me and how much I would ruin your teams. And that happened yesterday. I wasn't even on camera.
Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, so for those of you guys who missed Best Ball Breakfast yesterday, I've been lamenting the fact that I haven't been getting any Anthony Richardson shares. He's the steamiest player going right now. And I finally thought I was setting it up. Jonathan Taylor, then we draft Michael Pittman, and it's like, all right, I'll take Richardson in the 70s. Nope, this fucking guy has to go and take him at pick 65. And then you're on Twitter saying that you're waiting till he gets to the Trevor Lawrence tier. You took him ahead of Trevor Lawrence, Spags. You're completely unhinged.
Well, I did correct myself and say that was a bit of a spite premium because Pete was, in fact, drafting Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, and I had to assert my dominance. Here's the thing, Pete, that bothers me, and we can talk about this, and I'm sure it's going to be an ongoing theme all offseason. There are still so many people who don't believe in Anthony Richardson that now I'm even more dug in that I need to bring these people into the light so they know that this is going to be one of the best players we'll ever see in fantasy football.
This is such a straw man. People don't believe Spags. He's going earlier than ADP in every draft. Everyone fucking believes in Anthony Richardson. If your thesis was correct, I would have gotten him at ADP in one single draft.
I saw ADP chasing host Sam Sherman tweet out a poll asking, hey, where's Anthony Richardson going to be going by September? Pete, 5% of people thought he'd be going after pick 90. So those 5% of people, you are making everybody else suffer in every draft room I'm in because I need to bring them all to the glory of AR.
Well, yeah, the glory of AR. It sounds like I thought you were going to say AI. All right, I think this is my first Jamar Chase share in Best Ball Mania here. McCaffrey goes 2, so I will happily scoop Chase here.
Yeah, I have not gotten a lot of Chase. I've not gotten a lot of Jefferson. I think I've had only 2 101s, both of them in the puppy so far. So elite receivers, Pete, I feel like very elusive for us so far. Not getting that streamer influencer 101s you were so used to.
Yeah, I'll take it though. I'm happy anytime I get a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase share. I'm pretty excited.
I get it. Same way I feel about Anthony Richardson, no matter what the pick is. But here I am picking the 6 hole. My stream is not on camera today, so I got to get used to this. Kelsey's there. I worry we are going to be in a piss boy room based on the Chase Hill Cup of it. So I'm going to reach for Stephon Diggs and not get screwed, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm trying to check out the names here. I recognize Clutch Cow. I see K Bryan in here. Not a super badge heavy draft. It definitely looks like a piss boy draft when Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. Also, this is now something I'm noticing on all my streams. Tyreek Hill going ahead of Cooper Kupp. That feels like it's going to flip ADP soon because that just keeps happening.
Yeah, I think Tyreek, I know you've kind of made a good case for Kupp. I know some other people have made a good case for Kupp. Certainly the defense being worse. Kupp, I think having Stetson Bennett there is a guy who at least can get him the ball if Matthew Stafford's back is broken is a positive thing. But I do think Hill deserves to go ahead of Kupp just because of what we know about Miami, top pass rate over expectation team. Like Tyreek was, I think, the number 2 guy in the last 20 years in terms of yards per route run last year. So I think Tyreek deserves it, but you're not going to get a bad pick if you're taking Hill or Kupp.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm not gonna call anyone an idiot for doing it. Like, I think it's very, very close. I do think like the thing you're going to get from Cooper Kupp, right, is just more consistency with an elite target share. Where Cooper Kupp's never going to have a game where someone like Jalen Waddle is eating into his production, or we will have games where Jalen Waddle gets the 2 touchdowns and Tyreek Hill has 4 for 40. Like that stuff just doesn't happen for Cooper Kupp quite as much. So I do feel a little bit more confident just about his overall consistent upside. But I don't like poking holes in Tyreek's game because he's one of the best fantasy assets there is.
Also, Pete, I hate to do this because this is obviously a Pete's StreamYard. I normally pull up the chats on the Splash Play StreamYard, but here we go. Scott Sharp sounding not so sharp here. I do not believe in Richardson. Give me Minshew all day and twice on Sundays. He is part of the 5%, Pete, and why we have to continue to draft Anthony Richardson well ahead of ADP.
No, I'm not. I can't, dude. I cannot wait until the first summer story comes out and Shane Steichen's like, Anthony Richardson, when we drafted him, we knew he was a project. Gardner Minshew gives us the best chance to win right now. He's been running really well with the ones. Oh, man, you should see Minshew and Pittman's connection right now. Just really dialed in. Then Anthony Richardson will fall to the 130s, and then I can pack my bags.
I think it'll be more like Shane Steichen going, oh, I can't believe Anthony Richardson threw a hole through Jonathan Taylor on a 5-yard out. I think that's what's more likely to happen. But I am on the clock here. We're seeing receivers go early. Now a little bit of a run on running backs. Pete, I normally don't take an elite QB, and I worry this is going to box me out of the Anthony Richardson Derby if I do. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take Chris Olave.
Your logic, like the fact that you funnel every single decision through an Anthony Richardson lens just shows how broken your brain is. You know that there are other players in fantasy football other than Anthony Richardson, right?
Yeah, there's Tua who I take with Anthony Richardson sometimes. There's Deshaun Watson who I'll take. There's some cheap guys take Derek Carr. So like I take other guys. It's just right now, press the advantage. And I think there's a good chance, Pete, you might leave with an Anthony Richardson share today. I'm not committed to taking him, but I want to keep the optionality because I think we all know what people are tuning in for. They want to see if he gets sniped again.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what everyone wants here. I think it was on Splash Play the other day where I did pull the trigger on Pollard here, but this is definitely a piss boy room. We'll see if one of these running backs I like comes back. I'm in an interesting spot here where the elite quarterbacks haven't gone off the board yet. And normally at least one of these guys is off the board. Man, I always talk about how I don't love the alpha double stack here. And yet there's such a tier gap after T Higgins in this range. I'm going to take T. If quarterbacks are getting pushed in this room, it feels like a room where I could maybe get Burrow at the 4-5 turn area. So we'll push it there and then see what comes back to us running back wise here in 4 picks.
I like that call. I like the Burrow double still. Like it obviously you're paying a pretty steep price tag. You're committing your entire build. If you are taking those guys for the most part, but just in terms of pure upside stack where there's also some contingent value for Higgins, like I really have no issue taking the Burrow double, even if, it's certainly a little bit overrepresented.
Gelly, what are we doing here, buddy? Okay, so much for that. You know what? This actually worked out really well. It's close for me between Ramondre and Jacobs. I continue to just work under the assumption that Breece Hall, people are going to get a little spooked about his injury stuff. So I think I don't really see Breece Hall's ADP rising a ton. So I'm going to continue to prioritize Ramondre in this range.
I also feel like if Migueli didn't do that, I would have had a shot at getting Josh Allen back at 30, which would have felt pretty good. So I don't love Migueli ruining the room here. I can't relate to ever doing that to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a wild double tap there. I wonder if this is where like ADP does mess with your brain. And I think it's a conversation too. Someone was asking me in the comments, here, make your pick here. And then we can,
I'm waiting Lamar. I'm going to take Mark Andrews here. I don't love Breece Hall at this ADP. He's starting to come down a little bit. So I'll get an elite tight end in the mix and maybe Lamar will fall, but probably not.
Yeah, I had a Lamar share, or sorry, a Mark Andrews share yesterday on Best Ball Breakfast when he had slipped past ADP. Definitely actually going to have a Best Ball tip video out about elite tight ends here probably tomorrow. But what was I going to say? Oh, about ADP. I've heard this narrative that when the casuals come in, maybe you'll get discounts on these players or blah, blah, blah. One thing I think you don't want to ignore is the fact that ADP becomes so entrenched. And I don't want to make excuses for Migueli here, but if you're drafting after ADP and you're like, holy cow, Patrick Mahomes is never available at the end of the second round, Jalen Hurts, it's sometimes tough to de-anchor yourself from that ADP. And I think, hey, because in their head, they're saying, hey, I'm just getting extreme values on 2 guys who shouldn't be here and I'll be done at quarterback. I don't think that's right, but I'm just saying, I do think normies get anchored to ADP just like the rest of us.
I think this is part of the Anthony Richardson thing and part of why I've kind of pushed my brain there. And I'm going to walk it back at a certain point. People are too into the elite QBs this year. Like, I think that's the casual thing I've seen the most on DraftKings, especially. I sometimes saw guys in some of the rooms I did on there, did like 15 drafts, people taking 2 of the elite QBs, 3 of the elite QBs in one of the rooms I was in. So I think that's the casual take. And actually, Pete, the other casual take I would say that I'm seeing a lot, Miami doubles with Tua, I feel like are very popular for the guys who are very into running backs in the past, including one of the streamers who we sometimes make fun of. So I think that's also the most casual stack is going to be the Tua Miami double.
Well, that's another thing I struggle with. You mentioned that one. You also, someone tagged me on the board this morning where someone did Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, and AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts. Because ADP wise, those are all fairly easy to get, and those will be very heavily replicated. So I struggle with like the uniqueness thing because it's like, yes, if the field has that stack at an out, at a high rate, like that's not necessarily great. And yet if you're still thinking about the high end outcomes and how you climb to the top of the leaderboard, and if you're doubling down on the bet you made in the first round, it does make logical sense to continue to stack those guys. And you're going to have 16 other picks to get unique. So I think to me, the takeaway is not that it's bad, but also to say, hey, I want to make sure I have some Josh Allen teams without Diggs. I want to make sure I have some Mahomes teams without Kelce. Stuff like that, to just know that you're getting access to those quarterbacks in other scenarios where that guy happens to fail in a week where it matters a lot.
No, I think that makes sense. I just would say that I think people sometimes feel like Miami is sneaky, and boy, they're not sneaky based on the amount of times I see that double stack coming. Joe Burrow would be a great fit for my team here, Pete, but I will in fact take Christian Watson. And if Burrow falls to you, then more power to you, I'd say.
The funny thing is like normally what I would say in this spot, Spags, is like, okay, I'll let quarterback go. I'll need to check what the tier gap here is, but I don't know if I can trust McGilly or Conneru not to take Burrow. Like, I don't think I can trust them with Joe Burrow at the top of the board here. And I don't see anyone that's just like a screaming faller that I'm like, oh, I have to lock in this value. So I am going to just take Joe Burrow here.
I think it's wise. I think once there's a little bit of variance in the room, a little bit of some wild cards here, and Conneru, I'm sure, is thinking, oh, I'd love that week 17 Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and wouldn't be able to help himself.
Wait, you're saying he's going in a time machine back to last year?
Yeah, he's like, they're going to redo it this year to make right for everybody who lost out on that week 17 points total they needed so much, myself included in the BBM finals. But no QB for McGilly here, so that's a positive.
We did get confirmation the schedule will be released on Thursday night. Apparently, it's going to be a 3-hour marathon broadcast. And I'm like, yes, I realize if you are a hardcore fan of a single team, you care. But other than that, it literally is just the best ball people who care about this. It's absolutely insane.
Well, people love the social media videos and stuff too. But who are you going to pick here? Yes.
I think I'm going to go Keenan Allen.
Okay, interesting. So going with an old there. I feel like you don't take a ton of Keenan these days.
You know what? Yeah, it's not, again, I've only done, 12 drafts, still have not done a puppy draft too. So I'm still feeling out this landscape here. It is a fairly wide receiver heavy room. So I'm going to make sure I keep loading up, and I have no issues with Keenan. It would be one thing if we were drafting him in the 3rd round, like he was last year, I think at those prices, but here in the early 5th alongside these other guys. And I think the Quentin Johnston ad is kind of like a rising tide for that entire offense that I'm excited about how that could impact Keenan too. So talk through your Dobbins pick at 54.
So I do like cornering the market on Baltimore a little bit. I certainly think, Lamar stacks. He's talked about throwing for 6,000 yards. I'm not sure I buy that as much, but I mostly think this offense is going to be better. If that's the case, Andrews should be better. I've talked a little bit about how at Georgia, Todd Monken did a good job using 2 tight ends there. Obviously, Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers, who's going to be a top prospect in the next year, I believe, if he comes out. So I think Dobbins is in a nice spot. Andrews is in a nice spot. And I don't get Lamar very often, so I got to make a bet on Baltimore somehow.
Yeah, it makes sense to build out that bet. Dobbins is an interesting one. I was talking with Pat yesterday. I did his Legendary Upside podcast, and I was wrestling with this idea of, I think I'm pretty good at being patient in drafts and trying to get, build super teams. Like, if I have Jalen Hurts, like, can I sneak Dallas Goedert past a round or so and get basically a supercharged team? But then you also have to weigh the correlation benefits, and it's always this like give and take. Whereas sometimes, and I think the tiebreaker for me is just like, is there a faller here which allows me to pass on the correlation and be like, yeah, the correlation is good, but I really want to scoop this ADP value up? The Joe Burrow instance is probably a good example of like McLaurin, Pittman, Judy, Keenan. All these guys are in the same tier. Just go get your quarterback. But that's something I wrestle with, is that trying to build a super team versus leaning into the correlation boost.
I get sniped so often when I try to push guys that I just try to kind of get the guys that I think are going to, line up the most correlation wise for me. And also too, like I definitely like, I know Pete's talked a lot about the idea of taking 5 receivers for round 10. I was kind of playing with the RotoViz Explorer yesterday and seeing, at least with the last 2 years of Best Ball Mania, where that sort of was the diminishing return. Like, should I be taking him in the first 6 rounds, those 5 receivers? Should I take him in the first 7 rounds? And it does feel like I need to kind of mix in a running back more around 5 to 7 range, even though I know some people don't like to draft running backs there. And I just love Dobbins. Like, Dobbins was great last year. Didn't get a ton of touches down the stretch, but still was great with every touch. So I'm willing to get a running back here. And now I am in an interesting spot to take a tight end. I love Dallas Goedert. A receiver, I love George Pickens. I think I'm going to go the receiver route. And hopefully a Baltimore-Pittsburgh game occurs in week 17.
There you go. Saw someone in the chat saying they need to catch up on the comments. Purple Yosh, I do have the playlist with all of my Best Ball Mania 4 drafts. Anytime you guys leave a comment, you'll be entered into the $1,500 giveaway that I'll be doing when I hit 15,000 subs. We did cross an important milestone on the channel yesterday, over 13K subs. So we are on a good pace. If we keep up this pace, we will hit 15K by the end of the summer. So keep the comments coming, keep the subscribes coming, and we will be in good shape here. I missed out on Dallas Goedert yesterday. I've been talking about elite tight ends. I'm going to go ahead and grab Dallas Goedert here. I like this price.
I love Dallas Goedert. I mean, I've talked about it a little bit, best tight end in DVOA, as well as estimated points added EPA. So 2 core stats that I look at to kind of determine who's a volume guy, who's a guy that's actually doing something above and beyond. So Goddard to me is one of those guys that I think he's not quite lumped into that Kittle tier break, but I think Goddard, both in terms of floor and ceiling, and also some contingent value. Like if AJ Brown goes down, if Devonta goes down, there's a lot of ways Goddard can really get there. So I love him as a tight end, as kind of an anchor there, and you only have to draft 2 now.
I want to give a shout out to Miguel here because, again, while I don't think taking 2 quarterbacks there is optimal, they didn't continue to do crazy things. They're loading up on wide receiver, catching up there, and now they're going to have a very good wide receiver room and a very good quarterback room. So I don't hate that for them. Let's see here. I want to keep the bit going. I'm not going to take Anthony Richardson. And I refuse to give in to big Anthony Richardson yet at this spot.
Surprised Miguel didn't take him, because I did see him grab Pittman and was like, is he going to take Richardson too? Because usually if somebody does reach for Pittman, it tends to be a sign that they are going to go the Richardson way. And you take Deontay Johnson, who I was actually thinking about to make a little late Pickett stack.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And you know what? I would love to take credit on that being a snipe, of that being spiteful of me even getting just kind of Spags tilt equity. But you know what, Spags? I actually just make my picks in a vacuum, and I just try to build the best possible team, and I don't try to upset my co-hosts.
All right, I've got 4 receivers here. No correlation with Watson. No correlation with any of the QBs on the board. Swift is falling. Boy, what do we do here? What do we do, Pete? I think I know what we do. I think I know.
That the clip has a new purpose. You're too horny for Anthony Richardson.
So something our good researcher Methodology pointed out in the Splash Play Discord, of course, on Pete's Deposit Kingdom Discord, pointed out Anthony Richardson, no girls linked to him on Instagram, no female distractions at all. He is a guy, cares about family, cares about football, Pete. So if you are going to be horny for any guy, Anthony Richardson's available, ladies and fellas out there.
Yeah, I mean, I also got to give a shout out to Mathology. He's been leaving horoscope comments on all of my videos. One of my favorite thing, and like, trust me, I understand some of you guys, it takes a lot of creative effort to, leave a good comment, but I do appreciate those of you who have a thematic through line to your comments across all of these videos. Mathology with the horoscopes. We got one of my guy who always does like a beer related pun. I've been appreciating those. Henry Muto started just commenting the first player I drafted. So my challenge to you commenters, if you are here for the full 150 comments, find a theme, really brand your comments here, and just have a little fun with it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been replying to all the ones in the Splash Play channel. Some people accusing it of being AI who are in fact replying to all the comments. But no, Pete replies to them on his channel. I reply to them on the Splash Play channel because if people are going to go through this effort, Pete, like even if they are getting potentially $500 from you each for 3 different people, I want to reward them. Like we got to build community here. We got to make it count. So the effort is appreciated by you guys and we'll always reply in kind.
Yeah, I don't know how much community building there's going on with you and this Anthony Richardson bit. I mean, I just don't know when it's going to end. I think that's just what's so hard for me to grapple with right now.
James Conner fallen a lot in drafts recently. I do not mind him.
I'm surprised you like James Conner.
Again, I just think Arizona's going to be so bad and bad teams just like to run out the clock on things. No QB correlations here make sense either. I'm actually going to take David Montgomery because I did get some Connor yesterday, so I'm trying to balance out my mental portfolio here. Only at running back, though, not at QB.
Yes, I did see your CCR inspired comment. Sorry, I mean, to your guys' credit, there are a ton of comments. Like it is now taking time in my day to go reply to all these. So yes, I'm sorry I couldn't shout out every comment, but I appreciate those of you flexing some creativities.
It's funny. So I keep scrolling the board as though I'm the one streaming it. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have to show anybody anything because I'm not producing this one. And now you can all see Pete's little delicate board and can't use your queue, huh? You're losing that luxury.
What? Like, yeah, I don't. That's something that's just a treat that when you're going to be producing the next stream, I actually get to use my queue. We have seen like a pretty crazy wide receiver run. We have that big tier gap to 118 is the next ADP here. I don't have any quarterback stuff I really need to complete here. I don't need to do Tua. I could maybe take like a Daniel Jones thought, but you know what, Spags, I was giving you James Conner is a guy that I just like don't like, but I do get just the smallest like Josh Jacobs 2023 version vibes from James Conner in that I want to contra trade my own emotions. And my own emotions are this old dust ball back on a team I want nothing to do with. But it's like if James Conner is the lead back for this team, he could certainly have a nice workload. And the times I'm going to get my James Conner shares is never going to be ahead of ADP. It's never going to be at ADP. It's going to be when he slips around. But it sounds like you like him. So sell me on James Conner here because I feel gross.
Well, I mean, I think the main thing for him is just that Arizona's not going to be good this year. I think for the most part, also a defensive-minded coach, offensive coordinator coming from Seattle, who we know loves to worry about the defense, try to let the offense run the ball out as much as possible. So I think a lot of those philosophies are going to carry over. And again, bad teams just kind of want to run out the clock on things. So if Arizona's not good, if they're not able to pass, you're going to see a lot of checkdowns to Connor. It's kind of what they did last year. And you get Daniel Jones. Who am I going to get here is the question. I would like to take another receiver. Odell is pretty dusty. I am going to... I'm going to set myself up here with a nice tight end, another AFC North guy. I'm going to take Pat Freiermuth here, or Pat Phil Hellmuth, that someone would call him, and maybe get Kenny Pickett later.
Yeah, I took a Kenny Pickett double stack on my stream yesterday. It was a little controversial because I did a 3 QB build with him and Hurts, which I definitely don't think is quote unquote optimal, but I do think there might be some merit to it for the playoffs. And Spags, you're in good shape because even though I have Deontay Johnson, I'm done at quarterback. I will be done with just Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones. So you once again get off scot-free with having to worry about me sniping your stack just out of pure tilt.
I'm glad. I mean, I don't think Kenny Pickett's the sexiest QB to competing for, so that works out well. And you get a mobile QB to pair with your kind of stack QB. So I think both our builds are looking solid here, even if people want to question currently an unstacked Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. And I didn't get to talk about it. I did pull the trigger on Daniel Jones there. I was kind of considering him where I took James Conner. It felt like a very flat tier there or a big gap at running back and wide receiver. None of those guys felt good. I would have taken Charbonnet for sure if he slipped one more spot to 99. He didn't. So I figure I'll be done at quarterback. And with the elite tight end and being done at quarterback, I can now just hammer running back and wide receivers.
which I think looks pretty good here. Going to be a good run on running backs coming up here. Charbonnet going early is kind of a surprise. I feel like that's when I see fall a lot. Madison too going a little bit early. It seems like some of these guys, I think Madison and Charbonnet, Pete, are one of the guys, or two of the guys rather, over the summer that I think will kind of settle in a little bit higher, especially if Dalvin Cook gets cut. Like that's still looming around, and I think, or traded, and nobody's kind of reacting to that yet.
Yeah, I've been struggling with the Madison stuff. I think I definitely prefer Charbonnet over Madison, but I certainly get the points for Madison. I do worry if people are maybe discounting the fact that a guy like Ty Chandler or Dwayne McBride, I think, would be part of the offense if Dalvin Cook got cut in a way that I'm just not comfortable penciling in Alexander Madison for 20 plus touches with Dalvin Cook gone. And I think maybe the market is, and that's just something I'm kind of wrestling with a bit.
I'm going to grab Rashad Penny here. Bit of a reach for Kendre Miller right ahead of me, but I don't hate that too much. 3 running backs for me now, 4 receivers. None of the receivers are jumping out to me, so I went a little more running back heavy than I probably would like.
Yeah. There's some good comments in the chat I'm going to try to get to, but we're also trying to talk about our picks as they come up here. Spags takes Penny. I was definitely going to consider him here. Let's see. This is definitely a running back range. God, am I just going to take all the gross running backs today? No,
Kamara.
I'm not taking Kamara over P. Ryan. P. Ryan's been one of my guys. Just got to make sure that there's nothing wide receiver related I absolutely have to do here. Yeah, I'm going to keep grabbing P. Ryan.
No issue with P. Ryan. Certainly going to have a role either way. I get Javonte Williams at a discount a lot, so I probably should start taking a little bit more P. Ryan, but P. Ryan's going to be in there, going to be in the mix even if Javonte comes back and is 100%, because they just do different things, and Sean Payton has set out, right? Like, I've always used multiple backs. I think that's going to be the case for P. Ryan no matter what.
All right, I am back on the clock here. Yesterday, I took Jonathan Mingo because I was behind at wide receiver, and the chat made some really good points about how Rashee Rice is probably even the better pick, even though there's a slight gap there. So I will split the difference today. I need to make up at wide receiver, and I'm going to grab Rashee Rice here at pick 123.
I've been making sure to grab some Rashee Rice too, because he does feel like one of those guys that could soar up another 30 to 40 spots, depending on how the camp reports go. Though some positive Kadarius Toney stuff lately maybe kind of keeps Rashee Rice in check a little bit.
Yeah, I was talking about this with Pat here. Where let's make your pick. You're gonna take Alec Pierce to stack with your boy, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's worth the risk of him not coming back. Because it's 139. Yeah, I'm just going to take Pierce here and reach because honestly, nobody jumps out here. Receiver, Sky Moore, Zay Jones, Thielen, Hyatt. I'd rather just get a guy who correlates.
The one thing I was going to say that I was talking about with Pat with these rookie wide receivers, and in general, we were mentioning kind of that 5 wide receivers by round 10 heuristic. One reason I think you can push it just a little bit right now is because of all of these second round rookie wide receivers. So I'm saying Mingo, Rashee Rice, Jaden Reed, and Marvin Mims. I think all of them are going to be ADP risers to the point where I feel like those guys are going to be 9th through 11th round picks, in about a month or so. So I don't mind like pushing wide receiver a teeny bit, knowing that you're still building basically like 5 wide receivers before round 10. It's just you're getting them right now in the 11th, 12th, 13th, knowing they're going to get pushed up. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about those guys.
Did Leone tweet this week? I think I saw him tweeting something about like rookies perhaps having a little bit less upside this year just because of them being priced mostly appropriately / perhaps a little too enthusiastically. Does that occur to you at all? Because it does feel like these guys, I guess, from the Sky Moore thing last year, that was definitely the one aberration. But for the most part, the rookies do feel like they're priced properly. Be like, A-Chain's going top 100 now. And that happened faster than I thought would have been possible.
Yeah, the market's very sharp on it. I think the problem this is the cold water on my thought is like, yes, we might be locking in closing line value. In fact, I feel very confident we're locking in closing line value. This is just not as good of a wide receiver class as last year. Like getting Garrett Wilson in the 12th versus getting Rashee Rice in the 12th is very, very different. Like just different stratosphere of prospect profiles and caliber and draft capital and all that. So I think we also need to be a little open, not naive about the type of players we're drafting here.
I think honestly, the big take I would probably have, and my big take last year, I'd say like the meta take was that no running back would have 25 touches average per game. That ended up being the case. I think what I'm seeing, and this might be wrong, but I think the chasm between guys getting into the league as a rookie and being able to produce from day one is less of a big jump than it has been in the past. And I think especially too, like with the Anthony Richardson stuff, people always point out, oh, Josh Allen took a while. Trey Lance hasn't ever gotten there. It's also a guy who played in the SEC, like guys who played real competition. And I think that's something that I'm a little more willing to absorb the risk on, is that a lot of the rookies just seem like they get in the field and are ready to go. And I think this year, even though these guys may be not as talented as previous classes, a lot of these guys be playing day one, and that gives them the upside, I think. I'm on the clock, though. Not a great spot for anything here. Man, this is interesting, actually. I don't mind Pickett, and I was kind of planning around Pickett, but I think there's a chance that I can force a Jordan Love fall, so I'm going to take Romeo Doubs here.
All right. Romeo Doubs, come on down. What was the other thing I wanted to mention? Oh, yeah, there was a comment, kind of this dynamic we're talking about with these rookie steam and getting pushed up. God damn it, Jalen Hyatt, that was such an obvious pick for me with Daniel Jones there, and he goes 2 picks before. Thank you, sir.
Not so clutch cow, I would say.
No, not clutch at all. Let's see here. I guess I will take... Man, I really got behind at wide receiver. This is gross. All right, let's do Nico. One thing I was going to say is, so someone was asking me about like JSN's ADP, and it's like, don't you think this is rich? Like, even if he like surpasses, Tyler Lockett, blah, blah, blah. And I think the reason you see this steam and why you get sticker shock is you got to think about it through these two different lenses, right? The one lens is that, yes, that price tag for their week 1 through 14 production is exorbitant. It is too expensive. But if you think about it through the lens of, I am buying this tag for week 15 through 17 production, then it becomes more palatable. And then you understand, if he delivers Amon-Ra St. production weeks 15 through 17, that's a second round value for those 3 weeks. And so that ADP is almost splitting the difference. It's acknowledging that it's going to be a lower advance rate guy and not necessarily pay off in the regular season. But if he really smashes down the stretch, he can still more than pay off that cost. And I think that's the thing with ADPs that trip people up.
Did you see McGelly took Jordan Love for no particular reason?
You know what? This is what happens when you praise these guys. I was like, yeah, he's doing a nice build. He starts going 0 RB. And it's like, what does Jordan Love do for a Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts team?
Yeah, and he has nobody stacked up. So that's what you run into sometimes these drafts, which is the downer of it all. But we'll survive. I have the Pickett backdoor still alive, so I guess I'll exercise that at some point. I guess, are we just, I'm not going to play the hits here. Tyler Algier sitting there at 150. I'm going to reach for Jalen Warren instead, because now I'm fully locked in on Pickett.
Yeah, this, man, I underestimated this draft room. I was like, because I didn't see a ton of badges, but holy cow, this has been a wide receiver heavy room.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a switch I'm seeing, is that the casuals have learned from the browbeating they took last year. Like, even some guys who were like, oh, why don't you draft running backs, have been tweeting me and going, yeah, like, I'm taking a lot of wide receivers this year because of how bad it went last year with the running back. So I think it is sort of a tide shift, even though you still will get some running back heavy rooms. I think the casuals are a little more on board with spamming wide receivers more than they have been in the past.
Yeah. Fantasy Football Garage likes my Rashi Nico Mims run. It is a nice run, but ideally it would be like 2 rounds later. But it is what it is. We have to react to this room. We were definitely behind the 8 ball. Let's recap what's going to be our audio plan for these episodes, Spags. Do you want to like stitch these two together and put them both on the?
I don't even have. I'm not logged into your StreamYard anywhere, so I'll have to figure that out with you. But...
Well, we can huddle. I mean, we'll get these audio up. I mean, if we want to just put the first, I don't know, we can figure it out. But I was going to say, for the audio listeners, let's recap our teams here. So my team right now through 13 rounds, I got Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner, and Samaje Perine. I got the premium double stack, Chase and Higgins at wide receiver, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Rashee Rice, Nico Collins, Marvin Mims, and tight end Dallas Goedert. Spags, read the people what you got.
I have QB, the only player you need, Anthony Richardson. Running back, J.K. Dobbins, David Montgomery, Rashad Penny, Jalen Warren. Receiver, Diggs, Olave, Watson, Pickens, Pierce, and Romeo Doubs. And a tight end, Mark Andrews and Pat Freiermuth are my guys. I also want to push back on something Fantasy Garage said, that Jalen Reed is coming for Romeo Dobbs' spot. Dobbs is an outside receiver. Jalen Reed should be mostly playing in the slot. So if anything, it's mostly going to move Watson around, who did get some success in the slot last year. But I think it's one thing to keep in mind. Like sometimes people misread some of these things where it's like, it's not coming for Dobbs' spot because they kind of do different things. And guys who do different things for the most part, I tend to view them as separate buckets. So I would just point that out if you are not drafting Dobbs for that reason.
Yeah. And I think you want to be, I like both of those guys. I want to be taking stabs on both Dobbs and Reed. I do understand if people are skeptical, like, hey, can Jordan Love support, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, and Christian Watson seasons? Probably not. Like someone's going to be the odd man out, most likely. But just that second round draft capital, I don't want to turn my nose up at that. I think it's something that you want to be taking a look at in drafts.
All right, I'm on the clock here. God, I just don't have Carr, but I do think Rashid Shaheed is a guy that helps me get a little bit better at receiver right now. So I'm going to take Rashid Shaheed here. Yeah, I don't have a great feel for this team because I definitely was going to get a Packers double and then maybe pick it as a luxury, and that obviously ended up getting sniped away. So I'm pivoting a little bit on the fly here from what I was hoping to do.
All right, let's see what we got going on here. I'll take a little Deontay Foreman value hound here, 15 picks past ADP. I know Roshan is all the buzz right now, but I'll grab some Foreman at 166.
I have no issue taking Foreman. Take whoever the cheapest one is. I mean, that's, I think, what helped a lot of my teams. That's how I ended up on so much Ramondre last year was Damian Harris going 30 picks ahead of him at one point. Then that kind of leveled out. Then you take some Damian Harris. So I don't know. I feel like people just sometimes sleep on that. Like, it's not about having the player takes. Like, I think Roshan's going to win that backfield. But if he doesn't, Foreman's probably too cheap right now.
I just want to talk about the mutiny going on in the chat right now. Feed the Ducks. I don't want to overuse it. That is a thing we do in the second draft of Best Ball Breakfast. This is the first draft of Splash Play. I'm not prepared to feed the Ducks right now. I don't know if that's the vibe of this show. So you guys are all just going to need to chill out.
Yeah, the feeding the Ducks, I feel like that's a Pete Solo thing. It's just different vibes here. This isn't a feed the Ducks show. This is like a hard rock show.
This is a feed the troll show, and Spags is the troll with his little, I got to toss him his Anthony Richardson chum. It's basically what gets him through the show.
And here I get the luxury of getting one of the QBs I aspired to. Kenny Pickett, come on down to near a value hound, Pete, a 1.6 ADP discount.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations on your Kenny Pickett double stack. I'll toss you a bone though. I do have I have one more coffee pour left. It's going to be a weak coffee pour. There's not much in here, but this is for you guys. There you go, you ASMR freaks. Hopefully that scratches your duck itch.
Somebody just came out there. I like the pours too, honestly. I feel like that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed about your streams is when you have a little bit of space and you have the ambient noise. I think it's people get OCD about that shit a little bit.
Yeah. Rally, when you draft Daniel Jones, do you prefer leaving him naked or you just grab two Giants pass catchers and pray to the Ducks? I don't want to. I think Daniel Jones, the way he gets points in a lot of ways, I do think it's viable. If you got boxed out naked with him, it's not the worst thing in the world. But in general, again, like when you look at the data, and we'll continue to reference this all summer, check out Leone's Best Ball Manifesto, but the power of having multiple stacks in the fantasy playoff is just so huge. So I probably would never get shut out of a stack with Daniel Jones because you have so many guys available at different price points. It's like Waller, Wan'Dale Robinson, Hyatt, Hodgins, Slayton. You can go down the line. There's basically a guy available every other round. That's a giant. So I don't envision myself having a lot of naked Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and it's something too where I actually had one of the guys asking me on the Discord about just like getting stack sniped and all of that. And Crane wrote it up on Legendary Upside a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago now, talking about if somebody snipes your stack, mostly they're hurting themselves more than you because if they don't end up stacking it. They're basically taking an uncorrelated player that's not kind of doing the thing you want with your lineup of cutting that parlay down. And I would say too, it's kind of the same thing where if you have a double stack, then you end up taking another stack on top of that. It's like, great, you now made a bet on two teams and you've gotten different in a way that a lot of people won't have. So I don't know. Always try and stack them up, I think, if you can. Sometimes you just happen to get sniped on the guys you actually want.
Yeah. All right, we are heading into round 16 here. Spags with a 2-4-7-2 build. I have a 2-4-8-1 build. I have definitely tried to recover here at wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's one running back I am seeing on the board right now that I would like to get, and one that I wouldn't mind to get, especially with a little bit of a bet here on the AFC South, but we shall see what, here we go. Okay. I'm taking Tank Bigsby here, guy who I did not like much pre-draft, but landing in Jacksonville pretty good. And I think he's coming for more of a share of Travis Etienne's workload than people are giving him credit for.
I like that pick there. I'm thinking through, I probably made a mistake. I wanted to get Irv Smith as my second tight end to stack with Burrow. I took Hodgins ahead of ADP just because the wide receivers continue to fly off the board. I should have probably just taken Irv and then, been fine with Slayton if it came to that. So that kind of sucks. Let's see here. I'm just going to put Trey McBride in here. We have a bet on the Cardinals right now with James Conner. So we'll grab Trey McBride to be our pairing with Dallas Goedert.
You could have gotten even dustier, gotten Zach Ertz in the 18.
Ugh, that is dusty.
That is
so
incredible.
I think I can be good with a 5 running back build here, and then one more wide receiver. I don't see anything that I have to go grab at wide receiver right now. So I'm just going to grab Slayton and be done with this Danny Dimes double stack.
Okay. I like it. I mean, Slayton is one of those guys, like he and Terrace Marshall are two guys that I just feel like should be drafted more just based on the fact that they were good last year. Two guys that can get outside, can, play outside rather, can get downfield. So Slayton, I think, is one of those guys, if you do get scooped on all your, Daniel Jones guys, I would just take Slayton a little bit more because he goes undrafted like a large portion of the time now.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to address this because Christopher's been barking about this in the chat. And I did a rant about this in regards to solo tight end in Travis Kelce and solo quarterback. Like if you have the Hurts, the Allen, or the Mahomes, I think it's perfectly viable for the regular season, 1 through 14. But the thing you need to think through of why it's not optimal to winning millions of dollars in this contest is because if that solo quarterback gets you to the week 17 finals, he is going to have like an 80% to 90% ownership clip. If Jalen Hurts goes nuclear 15 and 16, everyone is going to have him in the finals. And guess what? Those other teams who have him are also going to have another quarterback with him that is going to allow them to potentially get a unique stack. And if Hurts doesn't hit, that's going to vault them up. And if Hurts does hit, well, you're going against 80% of the field who has the same exact guy. So I think it's a perfectly viable strategy for a high advance rate for maximizing your ability to get into the playoffs. But I think you are greatly, greatly diminishing your chance to finish in the top 10 in week 17 if you are rolling out a solo QB.
And I could say from experience, when I had my Best Ball Mania finalist last year had Joe Burrow and Trey Lance as my QBs. So when week 17 didn't happen for Buffalo and Cincinnati, I then had no points at quarterback. And that was definitely, would have legitimately vaulted me up. If I had 20 points, it would have vaulted me up another 100 spots, maybe more in Best Ball Mania instead of the 200 I finished at. So it's one of those things, obviously that's a small anecdote, but I agree with Pete that getting leverage on another player, being able to sneak a Jalen Hurts through with another QB is definitely another thing. So I think there's a lot of logic to having 2 QBs. Even if you do go on the RotoViz Explorer, like you'll find one QB did pretty well at small sample size stuff, but you're kind of leaving yourself pretty naked for a lot of that. And all it takes is one bad week, Pete, of running bad, and then you're fucking your pod.
Right. And I don't like it for solo tight end either, but I actually think it's more viable for tight end because if you have Travis Kelce and then it's just like a bad tight end scoring week and like the highest scoring tight end is scoring like 6 or 7 points or whatever, like you can survive that. But if you have Jalen Hurts and either the rest of the field has him or he fails, some other quarterback is going to score 25 plus points. Like that is just how it's going to work. And you're not going to be able to make up that deficit. So you're either playing a chalky build against the entire field or you are basically drawing dead because you're taking a 0 at quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to look at it. And definitely, I appreciate the different strategies people want to bring to the table, but there's a certain reason why some things happen a lot. So I think that's a single QB there. It just feels like you're making yourself too thin right away. And especially in Best Ball Mania. Like I play it in the puppy if you want, I think give that a few shots, but not in Best Ball Mania.
All right, Spags, you got your Final pick here. You have a 2-6-7-2 build.
Yeah, I feel like I could take a tight end here just to complete my double for the Colts. I did not get anybody besides Alec Pierce. Takes so much Jelani Woods, though. Does he add a lot to an Andrews Freiermuth lineup? I don't know. Now that Dell went, there's nobody else in the South I want. So I'm going to take Jelani Woods and go 3 tight ends.
Man, this is a really gross spot for running backs. This is one of those times where I'm like, how do I avoid dead roster spots while needing a running back? And I'm looking at these available guys and I'm like, I mean, I have stuff I can do. I could correlate stuff. I could galaxy brain like an Eric Gray on the Giants, but man, this feels gross. You know what I think I will do? Normally I would take like a guy like Pierre Strong here, but I have Ramondre Stevenson. I want to make a bet on him. I'm going to make a bet that Malik Davis is the RB2 behind Tony Pollard this year.
It's no Rojo?
I think Malik Davis is going to be the 2.
I really think Rojo's still live. Like, I don't want to take him in every draft, but as an 18th round tack on, I would go Rojo.
I took a lot of Rojo in the big board, but I've been starting to think about balancing that. And just to be clear, I don't like any of these running back selections here. If I were to redo the draft, I would have gotten my 5th running back at another portion because I do think I am very much in risk of taking on a dead roster spot with this pick.
Yeah, and that's one of the things Pete's talked about that I know Leone did a lot of deep diving in on the Best Ball Manifesto. But at this point, you are getting the ADP values, but you're less likely to have all your guys active for weeks 15 through 17. So trying to balance it out, as Pete's talked about, just avoiding a 0 can be as important as actually getting a guy with upside.
All right, Spags. How are we going to do this transition here?
I mean, do we have to do a reading of the teams? Is that a thing?
Yes, and I think I get to, because this one's on my channel, I get to do the reading here.
Put the proper flair on it if you can.
Yeah, so you guys, if you're new to the Splash Play streams, we have this versus element, and the chat does need to vote. Sometimes it gets confusing, and Spags tries to like move the goalposts on the numbers. So just write Pete if you think Pete won, Spags if you think Spags won. My draft, Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones, just 2 high-end quarterbacks, ceiling stack, just gorgeous stuff there. Running back room, Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner, Samaje Perine, Deontay Foreman, Malik Davis. A little thin, but we all know we don't need to spend a lot of draft capital at such a useless position. Wide receivers, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that premium double stack, chef's kiss. Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Rashee Rice, Nico Collins, Marvin Mims, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton for that backdoor double Danny Dime stack. Tight end, Dallas Goedert, Trey McBride. What a gorgeous team there. And Chris Spags here. Anthony Richardson at pick 78. The Richardson slappies were out and about again. Kenny Pickett. His running backs, J.K. Dobbins, David Montgomery, Rashad Penny, Jalen Warren, Tank Bigsby, and Jerome Ford. A fine 0 RB room if we're being generous. His wide receivers, Stephon Diggs, Chris Olave, Christian Watson, George Pickens, Alec Pierce, Romeo Doubs, Rashid Shaheed. Tight ends. You did not need to go 3 tight ends with a Mark Andrews, Pat Freiermuth build, but the Richardson slappy has to double down on their initial mistake by selecting Jelani Woods. What an egregious use of draft capital.
So here's the thing, Pete. It looks like the chat is giving you the votes again. Bullock was asking earlier, I am tracking every single one that's a head-to-head, so we will go through at the end of this and see who won them all. And I think I'm going to be vindicated by the time January 2024 rolls around, Pete.
Okay, you are getting a couple late votes here, but this is a landslide.
Oh, even underdog employees voting for Pete. It just feels like the deck is stacked here against me. But should we start the transition now, Pete? I don't know. I don't know. We
should. Spags, why don't you hop over in there? Did you already send me the link for this?
Yeah, it should be in our text yesterday.
All right. So this is what's going to happen, guys. We are headed over to the Splash Play channel. It should refresh. The second this ends here, we have a redirect set up, so you can just, put your feet up. We also have the link there if you want to head over to the Splash Play channel. We're going to be doing draft number 2, my draft number 13. We got a lot going on here. Spags and I have to run into the green room, do a change of clothes. You guys need to go leave a quick comment on this video to be entered in the giveaway, and we are going to go draft another Best Ball Mania team on Splash Play right now.